She's been nominated as Top 50 Women in Cybersecurity in Africa 2020 and Martha Ingram Leadership Award 2020 winner. Ivy is an account manager cybersecurity for the Middle East, Turkey, and African region at Aptec and Ingram Micro company. A young, ambitious professional in the information technology industry and cybersecurity. Ivy is passionate about cybersecurity and empowering women in the corporate space. She has worked with multinationals like Diageo as part of IT network management teams and SAP Innovation teams to increase efficiency and reduce loss. She has extensive working knowledge in cybersecurity technology vendors. Ivy currently works as part of cybersecurity solution advisory team in Ingram Micro for government, SME and enterprise customers in the META region. The organization is keen to bring a holistic approach to cybersecurity by offering new perspectives to clients and transforming the cybersecurity landscape, which resulted in the identification of new business opportunities and value change transformation. Ivy, as I saw your name, it's going to be K as hero. So it's over to you. Have fun.
Before that, we forgot to cover the topic that Ivy is going to be covering. So Ivy is going to be talking about the opportunities available to women in cybersecurity and overcoming the challenges in building the skill sets. With that, over to you, Ivy. All the best.
All the best, Ivy.
Great, thank you. I'm not sure how I'm able to see myself as well as the presentation screen. So I'll be speaking without being sure whether you can really see me, but I hope you can see my screen.
I'll let you know if there are any issues. Don't worry.
Great.
So far,
I'd want to say actually thank you for the opportunity by Rocheston to actually participate in the event. I think in the cybersecurity space, this is the first conference that I'm actually doing that is not organized by my company, and then is also not centered on the initiatives that I run outside corporate business. And so I'm having a fast, and I hope you'll enjoy this experience with me as I take you through the topic of how to overcome the challenges on building skill sets. Now, as a disclaimer onto how I'll be running my session today, I'd want to avoid going through the stereotypical cliche approach, and because I figured while coming up with the slides that most of the discussions will all dwell on statistics. So I was quite controlling when trying to limit the amount of statistics that I come with. But also, I just wanted to be able to bring a practical approach, especially for a young woman on the session or just an individual trying to penetrate into the cybersecurity space in a more practical and an engaging way based on my experience and the knowledge that I have at this point. And so this is, for the context of what we will be discussing, I figured it's best that I put perspective into it. So my name, by virtue of the introduction, I'm sure it's put into perspective that I'm centered around the business development aspect of cybersecurity. When I looked at the titles of majority of the speakers that were going to speak today, I realized that I didn't see many that fell into the domain of sort of sales-oriented approach. And I figured maybe this is not a discussion that is had often, that it's also a space to look into while talking about cybersecurity, and especially if you are you're new into the domain and you're in a learning phase. So by virtue of that being my background at this point in time, I hope you'll be able to gain some insights into what the job entails and what you could be able to learn out of it. Topic being opportunities available for women in cybersecurity and overcoming challenges in building skill set. I'd want to start by a slogan that I stand by. I run in most of the engagements that I run and conversations that I have with women across the African continent and also as well in the Middle East is I focus on empowering women to understand we raise the standard by being the standard. It's an individual mantra that I run with while trying to get by the corporate space. And I wanted to start by getting you to embrace this philosophy as I take you into the journey of understanding how to develop yourself in this space. So I believe that if you want, we have to start by being the change that we want to see. A lot of stuff that we see around society is stuff that is, we want to believe that it's stuff that we don't have control over, but there's an element to which we can control. And I believe this is where we should start on focusing on. So as I want to discuss challenges and the issues that are in the society and how to overcome them, I want to focus on us looking at ourselves as women, and how can we be able to build ourselves up towards the direction of building skill sets and positioning ourselves for cybersecurity opportunities. So what do I say? It is, if it doesn't exist, create it. If it's not known, then discover it and educate others while setting a standard and breaking barriers and achieving milestones never achieved. So while we talk of statistics of women not existing, let's step into that space and we can say that women exist by you being there in the front line. So where are we right now, the present and the future ahead? I'd want to focus on some of the statistics that were talked about earlier. And I figure most of us were in line with the same research done by the ISC squared workforce research. And in 2017, they came up with statistics of 11% of women representation in the cybersecurity workforce. And as of 2018 study, the numbers had increased to around 24% of women. And it was quite interesting to see that in that same statistics, the findings of women that had actually elevated themselves into management positions here, we're talking about C-level positions, CTO positions, as well as VP positions had increased as well. And you can see on the graph on the screen that the percentage of women representation, as much as it's not comparable, equal to the percentage that men represent in the space, women have actually done a great job in the past 2-3 years. And so this means that women are actually penetrating the glass ceiling in terms of leadership. And to me, it's the opportunity that women have taken to understand that we need to have a seat at the table if we need to make the change and a change of mindset and culture. We need a position to be able to speak for ourselves as well as give perspective onto what we are able to bring into the space. And so, again, on the same statistics, according to Scientific American, they gave an analysis of the numbers of jobs that are expected to be seen by year 2022. It's nearly 2 million, which is, it was actually 2.9, and I've actually seen in other research that the numbers were actually 3.5 million. So if we're talking about the digital transformation that we're currently evolving into, this increase is going to also increase radically and rapidly as well. And so if we want to see an impact and change of an opportunity that is being created, then we're talking about a huge opportunity of jobs and opportunities that are there for both male and female. And I'd want to say that if this is the case, then we all have a fair chance into penetrating this space. And how do we get to do that? I'd want to say being brave. We have to be brave and create the life of our dreams. I mean, dare to strive for the spectacular. Most times we would say, I do understand of the limitations that we have as women, especially in the corporate space, not just in cybersecurity, and also there are many other limitations that culture and society have set in place over the years. And by the time we take down these notions and mental biases that we have, it's going to take time to evolve. But as we get there, we should step into the responsibility of trying to participate in building a new norm. break barriers or stereotypes to what society has known to be normal. And by this is the only way that society will be able to see exceptional difference in performance, because we've put ourselves in a space where we are visible and we can show that we are capable. ISC actually also mentioned in their research that the women that are succeeding and forging a path to a career success have higher education and are qualifying for more leadership roles despite obstacles like, discrepancy in pay. Earlier on in the sessions we had before our lunch break, the Ruby and Dr. Vinesha mentioned a few things with regards to this, and also shared a lot of statistics with regards to how women are empowering themselves in acquiring skill sets. And also the numbers didn't lie in Dr. Vinesha's presentation with regards to the number of women that are actually educated and sitting in leadership positions, meaning women have found a way that they're able to prove their capabilities by acquiring education and skill sets that prove their competency as equal to men in this space. And which is, it's a tremendous development that women actually found a way to navigate the space without dwelling on the excuses and the obstacles that had been created for them. So I'd want to focus on the top four. I just want to mention the top career challenges that women face. And I because my agenda wasn't to actually dwell on this, I'll just mention them briefly. Cost of formal education to properly prepare for a career in cybersecurity. Depending on where you come from, whichever part of the world that you come from, I do believe for most of us, educational resource and in terms of finances is not easily accessible to many. And even with the programs that we're having, the STEM programs and scholarships that are given, it's only limited to to those who have visibility and access to the knowledge and information of these programs as well. So the awareness to the scholarships also and the limitations that those scholarships are able to accommodate also just creates the limitation for access to this form of education. Cybersecurity certifications, just maintaining the certifications in itself is a cost, and then acquiring them in itself is also a cost. And being in a position where you don't even know which certification. I saw in the previous sessions when Aditya asked the question whether getting a certification or getting the job experience, which one beats which. But these are some of the scenarios that you want to get the certification, but you don't know whether the cost of the conversion to actually get a job that will and help you develop yourself because of the availability of resources even there in the first place. So there's not enough job experience as well in a cybersecurity role. Reason being, you need the certificate to get the job, and you can't get the job without the certificate. So you either build skill set, and when you have the skill set on paper justified, getting a position to sit in a job as well because of lack of experience becomes another hurdle that we have to face. But also the lack of visibility of what opportunities are there for a career in cybersecurity also is another limiting aspect. If you ask me, when I was doing my bachelor's degree in information technology, we had units that, I wasn't sure whether IT related. In fact, cybersecurity wasn't actually a topic that our course program really talked about. We studied a lot about cryptography and these technical domains, but in terms of application to career path, weren't very clear. So it is only when I got into the job space that I actually identified that, cybersecurity is a space, and it's quite broad, and there's a lot to do within the cybersecurity space. And the idea that many going through education and are not aware of this visibility to what careers they have access to is also a limitation as to why people don't even consider cybersecurity as a career path. Self-doubt, women, I mean, there's this stereotypical bias that, engineering related courses and technology related courses are predominantly male dominated, but I've actually grown to believe that it's just we've had it in ourselves to believe it's that complex that most of us don't push ourselves to going towards that direction. But I want to challenge women to know, as in it's been said in the previous sessions by the previous speakers, that we are equally as competent as men are in this field. And how I'd want to, to go into giving solutions on how to overcome these challenges, I'd want to focus on 4 main keys to overcoming challenges in building skill set. These are not, majority of the solutions have been mentioned previously, but the keys that I want to focus on are keys that are in control of you as an individual. So any woman that is here that is in a position to consider or is trying to consider or is trying to transition into cybersecurity, I'd want you to focus on these 4 things. I mean, if not all of them, at least pick one of them that is going to transition you or propel you to at least take a step towards building skill set in cybersecurity. One of them is, my number 1 key is be curious. The cybersecurity space has a lot to offer. I mean, if the previous presentation was about artificial intelligence and its relation to cybersecurity, there was a lot of technical jargon in there. But if you create the interest to actually find out what is this whole cybersecurity about, where can I position myself, in the cycle that Dr. Vinesha mentioned into how to propel your career into cybersecurity, she talked about identifying an area that you feel you would fit more, and then practice and practice and practice so that you can be able to build your competence in it. So most of us don't get caught up in your day-to-day and miss the opportunity to build your skill set and add value to what you're able to offer for future opportunities. So regardless of what job role you're currently doing, just to also put perspective into this as an example, when I first graduated from university, I started as an intern at East African Breweries, which is part of Diageo Global, a manufacturing company, as an IT intern. I had no clue what cybersecurity was. IT was just terminologies and a computer and a mouse, basically. But while I got into the field, I got to realize that there was a lot to learn. I got to learn about networking, and my initial role was predominantly network desktop support, and then I went into managing the network, and then I went into working with the governance and risk and compliance teams on how to fine-tune the system. Basically, as I went on, I was able to position myself into other roles that were going to position me for better and more roles in future by building my skill set. So with that, by the time I was actually coming to Dubai and considering a new career and wanted to transition, I had an idea about technology, but I didn't have an idea about the major vendors and the players that exist in the tech space, basically. And the first company that I actually ended up working for was a system integrator, and they needed somebody who was in sales. I knew I had never sold before, basically, but I knew I would be able to sell. I mean, communication I didn't think communication was going to be a barrier, but I challenged myself that this is a new market. All I needed to do was gather knowledge on product, and I would be able to sell. And it's in that space that I got to understand a lot of technology. I got to acquire a lot of knowledge about different vendors, different cybersecurity vendors. I could give you comparisons of why Symantec and not Kaspersky, which vendors are top on the Gartner, which solutions are more cost effective and still efficient at the same time. And it is role as part of the cybersecurity advisory team. So basically what I'm trying to say is the future belongs to the curious, the ones who are not afraid to try it, explore it, poke it, question it, and turn it inside out. If you don't know, ask a question. We have access to the internet where there are a lot of free trainings, a lot of portals that offer free training, companies like Rocheston that are offering certifications, ISC Squared, ISACA, CompTIA. There's so many institutions that have access to trainings. And even if there's there's the idea of financial limitation, a lot of this information is free. A lot of vendors are offering trainings for free. So key aspect to look into is be curious. We can't ask for opportunities if we are not even interested to want to know more, to position ourselves for the opportunities that we're asking for. Number two. So another key aspect, I think something I'd want to reiterate. I read this quote by Germany Kent, and it said, start today creating a vision of yourself, your life, and your career. Bounce back from adversity and create what you want. Rebuild and rebrand. Tell yourself it's possible along the way. Have patience and maintain peace with yourself during the process. The reason I had to put this in there is because my journey towards getting to this point as an account manager, providing cybersecurity advisory for corporates is, I didn't get here overnight, and I still believe there's a lot of room for learning and opportunity ahead. But being able to see myself and understand where I'd want to go as a cybersecurity expert, and understanding that the technology space is constantly evolving, I've understood that I have to create for myself what I want, constantly rebuild and rebrand myself to position me to the direction that I want. The more I understand of opportunities, the more I gain knowledge on the technology space and predominantly on cybersecurity, because this is my key interest. I'm constantly transforming and rebranding myself towards that direction. And then one thing you need to know is, because of the constant change, you have to understand that this is a journey. It's you have to be patient with yourself. Go enjoy the process and maintain peace with yourself during the process. You're not in competition with everybody, and this journey is beautiful if you're continually enjoying it. So for most young people, and especially women, young women in my generation, basically, trust the process. Most of us are keen on chasing quick money or, high-level positions without, taking the time to build ourselves towards that direction. I'd want to say, be patient, but put in the work so that by the time opportunities come, you would be ready for them. Take responsibility for your career development. There's one of our Nobel Prize winners, Wangari Maathai, who said, finally, I was able to see that if I had a contribution I wanted to make, I must do it, despite what others said. That I was okay the way I was, and that it was all right to be strong. The reason I thought of having this, as I talked about taking responsibility for development of your career, is in 2017, when I was joining Ingram Micro, they had put a position for inside sales person for GFI software, which is one of the SMB cybersecurity vendor. And at that time, I was working for a reseller, and the vendor approached me because I'd actually handled the vendor before, and they told me of the position. if I look at it in hindsight, I would not, if I was looking for a title, or if I hadn't had a vision as to where I wanted to go with my career, I would probably have not taken the role, because it was a very junior entry level role. And I felt like over the years that I had already been in Dubai, and the experience that I'd built while in Kenya qualified me for a mid-level role, honestly. But I took that role just because I had one vision and one goal, that I had aimed to work for a multinational company that was would position me for a cybersecurity role. So when I took this vendor role, I wanted to understand the channel, I wanted to understand the distribution model, and I also wanted to handle a technology vendor that had multiple solutions in the portfolio, which meant there was a lot of technology learning to enhance on. So within the period of 2 years that I actually worked for the vendor, I transitioned myself into doing pre-sales activities that involved the vendor, which meant I enhanced my technology skills. I enhanced my understanding on a lot of cybersecurity related solutions that fell under this portfolio, and then also understood a lot of other competing technology as well. I needed to know to be able to sell technology. And because of this, when I saw the opportunity to move into consulting and advisory for corporates from a cybersecurity point of view came about, I stepped up and approached HR saying, I feel I'm competent and fit to do this, take this responsibility because of XYZ, and this is what I think I've achieved over time, and this is what I'm capable of achieving. And because of it, I ended up transitioning to the cybersecurity department, and this is where I am at this point in time. Basically, I know there are so many people in my company who would probably have transitioned, who would be fit for that job, probably never thought of positioning themselves for the same. I'm sure there are people outside as well who would have felt that they are competent for that role, but also maybe never applied for one reason or the other. But I've always taken the responsibility internally. I've grown and transitioned over a period of 3 years into 3 promotions within the period of 3 years. Reason is I have owned my career development in cybersecurity within Ingram Micro. And I challenge you, if you want to transition, if cybersecurity is your interest, build the skill set that you require, at least to get in there, and then challenge yourself to say that I will speak for myself, to position myself for those roles. We can expect that companies will push for headcounts and expect women to be there. We'll say we need women to be given opportunities, but we need also to understand that most people don't know what we need as individuals, especially as women. So if we don't speak for ourselves, nobody is going to do that for us. So I challenge any young woman looking to grow in cybersecurity, be vocal about your ambitions and take responsibility for development of your career. Third is disrupt yourself. Constantly disrupt yourself. Cybersecurity, in fact, technology is constantly changing, as I said earlier. So to be comfortable in where you are, in whatever role you currently sit, we've gotten to understand now that cybersecurity is quite broad, and based on the different speakers, they've all spoken from different positions and different backgrounds. So this can be able to tell you that depending on where you're at, you can constantly transform yourself. You can start as a salesperson and move yourself into a consultancy. You can start as a technical person, operational technical person, and transition yourself into cybersecurity, and then transition yourself into pre-sales, and then choose to move into consultancy. I mean, there's a lot of constant transformation an individual can make, but you also need to understand that society is constantly changing. And if we look at what has happened during this COVID period, to be specific, it's changed the way people totally work. I mean, even how cybersecurity is being approached. So this means if you're not transforming yourself or positioning yourself for the new way of working or the new way of approaching business, you're probably going to miss out in the future. And this is why when you disrupt yourself, it means you're looking for growth. So if you want to muscle up a curve, you have to push and pull against objects and barriers that will constrain and constrict you. That's how you get stronger. meaning try something new, challenge, take a new approach. Companies are now trying different new initiatives with regards to remote working. There are a lot of cybersecurity roles that require people to work at home. Initially, I think it was Lupa that mentioned that the different organizations that they're trying to work with different organizations to implore people to change the way they approach employing IT, cybersecurity professionals. So find your niche and find how you can transform yourself, reinvent yourself to completely position yourself for what cybersecurity and the new digitalized space is going to look like in the future. Fourthly, is mentorship. It was mentioned earlier by Ruby and I think also by Dr. Vinesha earlier with regards to finding mentors. I think for me, there are different approaches I would take to working or identifying mentors within the cybersecurity space. I have seen professionals and watched how they've developed themselves to where they are at the moment, and also just tried to learn and follow their footsteps. I don't need to you don't always have to have a mentor that you meet on as a one-on-one, but you can learn. I mean, we have access to the internet. There are a lot of people you can learn from that share videos, podcasts, TED Talks. There's a lot you can learn from different women in leadership and in cybersecurity as well. And as well, focus on, identifying a person that you can speak to in terms of what skill sets do you need to build up? What do you need to prioritize for your next career move? So, and also just find out which organizations are fit for the type of career that you're looking into, and try and position yourself for those roles. So basically, I think when we get the opportunity, well, we have leaders that have gotten the opportunity to get to the top. As I said earlier while starting my presentation, it would kill the initiative that we're trying to propel women into cybersecurity if we don't have women talking to other women with regards to the opportunities that are available. And I'm privileged and humbled to actually get to learn from the different women that have spoken earlier and are going to be speaking in the next couple of days on this forum, because this is helping women to see different perspectives and availability of options, career options that are there in cybersecurity. But also, while the women that have actually managed to have a seat at the table take the time and maybe determined effort to promote and train, coach, and mentor just new leaders and new entrants who can, eventually be the pinnacle for leadership and technical competence as well. Another aspect of mentorship that I'd want to, put across is, I know we say, we as women, we're trying to grow each other. But I'd want to encourage that we can have men as part of our allies in terms of mentorship for this. We've got men who really believe in the competence of women in the cybersecurity space. And if you can find men who are part of the table and are seated with the fellow women who can be able to speak and give opportunities to women and develop and help mentor and coach other young women into this space, would really be a transformative approach. But I want to say mentorship, a mentee, in my opinion, should also take initiative to own their growth and as well be curious, as I'd said earlier, to want to learn and be mentored. So as an individual, if you spot someone who you think is where you are, is where you want to be, we're in a position where the worst you can get from a mentor is a no. And from a sales point of view, when you get a no, you just move on to the next one. So it is, I believe we should, and individuals should take responsibility for this. I know there are a lot of initiatives that are there to create mentorship programs for young women, but women also should also take the opportunity and the responsibility to grow themselves in this. But also also the leadership to take the responsibility to educate on the opportunities that are there so that it can create the interest and spark the desire to position themselves for these roles and opportunities that are available for women. So now women are ready, women are have built the skill set, women have have become bold enough now to step into cybersecurity. Then what? If we don't create the opportunities for women if we don't give women the opportunities to be able to show their competence, then all the work we're doing into creating the awareness and education is basically going to end up pointless. But as we have seen in transition, a lot of women are now getting opportunities into this space. And I believe that we're getting into a society, as they had said earlier, that it's going to be predominantly 75% of the consumer spending by 2028 will be run by women. And that is just a great picture to see the opportunities that are being set up for women to grow. But what I'd want to iterate more is that opportunity does not waste time with those who are unprepared. And so this is why it is quite key that women are given opportunities by virtue of the credibility that they have to do the job as much as men are. And we have to be quite intentional about it, because I would say, I read an article earlier and they called it positive bias. But if recruiters while hiring could be consciously looking for competent women to position them for opportunities that arise in cybersecurity, would be a great initiative. Because I mean, there's already the subconscious bias that men are presumed to be more competent when it comes to the tech space, and a lot of other biases when it comes to preferential of those in leadership preferring to work with certain genders and whatnot. But if we can be conscious, I mean, HR, company cultures, and whom you refer for jobs within your company, this would really transform and create more opportunity for women. And also the reason why I have this as a point into building skill set is we've actually identified that in the previous sessions that the lack of experience is a hindering factor when it comes to giving jobs. And so if this is a way we can be able to beat this, to bridge this gap, then it would be an initiative that we would need to take consciously. So basically, we would take this also by trying to just recruit women from STEM programs, actively approaching universities and giving internships to women who are trying to build the experience skill set required for these cybersecurity jobs. And as we've identified, they don't necessarily have to be fully engineered tech skill sets, because we've identified that there are a lot of other domains and responsibilities that aren't fully ones and zeros, as said by the CEO earlier on in the keynote. So those are my 4 takeaways. I tried to keep this short because those 4 things have worked for me in getting to where I am. And I'm a key driver of building my skill set certifications as well, to be able to position myself for leverage in future opportunities. So I hope any of these 4 pointers that I've shared would be of benefit or a key learning for anybody to take. That as an individual, you take the initiative to build yourself in the cybersecurity space. Aditya, I guess at this point this would be it for me.
Hi, Ivy. Thank you for sharing your 4 secrets of success for women to succeed in cybersecurity. So we have a lot of questions. I'm going to start off with the first one. You were talking about some of the cultural biases that exist in the workplace.
Yes.
So are there any unique challenges faced by Blacks in tech, especially for women? And if so, how could we better address these issues?
I was trying to I tried to actually avoid mentioning it in my presentation, but I'm glad somebody asked. I do believe there's already a challenge for women in general in the tech space and generally in cybersecurity, in my opinion. But the issue of color makes it even a more complex issue, because most times there's unconscious bias that sometimes people might think that your education background wasn't credible enough to position you for a job, or you always feel like you have to work 2 times harder to prove your competence for a job. And this will take time before things can change. And so, in my opinion, how I take this as an approach is I put myself in a position to justify why you need more people that look like me in this space. So meaning I have to always show competency and efficiency and capability while I'm doing my job. It might be hard, but this is going to eventually make it easy for those that come after me. So I know the change is going to take time, but at this point, this is what we have to do. But I also believe organizations can, the same way they're taking it as a conscious initiative to focus on giving women opportunities, is that they should also take a conscious initiative into understanding that they're also unconscious bias when it comes to hiring people that look basically like me, people of color. So there is a lot to be done, and I've seen certain organizations are taking a conscious initiative and having programs that are educating their HR departments to beat this. But I do believe that it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So instead of wallowing on the excuse of what's going to happen, I think I believe that if I can prove our competence and change the narrative, that eventually it'll be easier for the people behind me.
Okay. Thank you for that very detailed answer, how you want to set the path for the people to follow after you. That's very nice. I'm just going to ask you 2 more questions. We have quite a few in the queue, but we're running out of time. Yeah. So women from low income groups may not have the necessary resources. In your opinion, how would you get more women from these groups involved in cybersecurity?
So in my opinion, I'd say if I would consciously take initiative, and I don't know, I mean, depending on, I'm going to speak from an African perspective, is I do know that there are certain programs and initiatives that focus on building educational skill sets, giving scholarships, consciously educating and giving awareness to young people on the opportunities that are there for cybersecurity. I personally take initiative in educating people that are actually in IT that don't know of the potential opportunities that are there in cybersecurity. And, if there are positions to give resource in any way that can propel these people into building skill sets that would eventually create opportunity for them in cybersecurity, then I think that is one way. I mean, financial resources basically ultimately it, because education isn't free. But if there's an opportunity to provide education and education resource free of charge or on a scholarship base, this would probably attract more and also maybe create awareness on the opportunities available in cybersecurity as well.
Okay, great. So the last question is, with young children being very comfortable with the latest digital gadgets and apps, how early in the education phase do you think cybersecurity must be introduced, especially for young girls?
In my opinion, I have young sisters, and I'm quite finicky, honestly, about everything that happens on the tech space. Especially, it's scary when I think about what hackers are using to attract young girls. But in my opinion, as soon as your child has access into using a digital device, it's something that you have to constantly be mentioning or educating. And even if you have control into creating, putting privacy controls and managing those devices on behalf of your children, so that until they're able to to consciously take decisions, then you can be able to manage this. I think, in my opinion, right now, I think kids at the age of 4 have access to devices. If we can be able to control and educate, and probably even cartoons, if cartoons would be able to make animated communication that creates kids to be more aware about what happens on the internet space and how much threat is out there, I think it should start from an early age, is how I see it.
Great. Even I agree with you. I think the earlier you start them on, the more aware they become as they get older. So definitely, yes, they need to start at the early age.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ivy, for that, again, very motivating presentation and steps on succeeding in cybersecurity, especially for women. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you for our next conference as well.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ivy. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.